Are they here?
No, they're in the
It is 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is February 9th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions to the agenda?
We do. Addition of 4.3, extracurricular, co-curricular advisors. This list is being amended due to a child rearing leave. And then addition to 6.1 under personnel.
Wonderful. Any other additions to the agenda?
No.
All those in favor of, I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 12th, 2023.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussions on the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the following consent agenda, which takes us 3.1 through 4.3 as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion on the treasurer's report, consideration of claims, transportation report, cafeteria report, policy second reads, or mentors or extracurricular, co-curricular advisors? Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
That brings us to the first community participation. Please come forward if you'd like to speak, and if you're online, please put your chat and do your comment in the chat box. Please remember that each person has no more than 5 minutes at the podium. Over to the podium. Okay, seeing nobody. Come on. We're into personnel. We have a motion to approve the following spring coaches for the 2022-2023 school year. Contingent upon significant participants as recommended by the athletic director and superintendent.
I'll move. Second.
Any questions? Discussion? I need a motion to approve Ashley,
Craig,
thank you, to the sub-list as recommended by the administrative team and superintendent.
I'll second.
Discussion will be in executive session. Any other? All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve Leanne Youngford.
Can we just stop? Did we approve the coaches?
This
We
resolution-
moved and we seconded.
Did we approve it? Okay, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. We'll go back to a motion to approve Leanne Youngford as a long-term substitute effective February 28th through May 15th as recommended by the secretary principal and superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? As always, maternity leave dates are tentative. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve Barb Ort as per diem long-term substitute. With tentative dates of March 20th through April 6th, as recommended by the secondary principal and superintendent.
Second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the appointment of Allison Cross as a probationary part-time teacher bus aide effective March 6th through June 30th, as recommended by the Director of PPS and Superintendent.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the recommendation of the committees on special education and preschool special education.
A second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor? First reading, we're on to policies and regulations, and this is the discussion. We've got policy 2031, annual district meetings and elections, policy 2040.1, board of,
It's actually a regulation.
I'm sorry, that was a regulation. Board of Education agenda format, and 7200, admission of non-resident students. Any discussion on this?
I just want to hear from the policy committee about why you're bringing these forward, what your thoughts are, what.
Yeah, so I believe two of these were brought forward to streamline things for Jody, right?
Yes.
Except the annual district meeting election and the regulation, which we don't approve the regulations. They're just-
Correct, that's just for information.
Right.
And then as regulations can easily change
Right.
without our.
It doesn't have to go through the vote process.
The non-resident students, the issue was that we saw this about transition, this is a potential liability if we admit non-resident students. Our prior policy would have indicated that we only accept students that we could afford to provide their education for. So if a student had special needs, if the student had to go out of district for placement, we'd be, we would reject those students. Which is not something that we should be doing. It's also not something that we could, a type of liability that we could take on as far as the cost. And that could be very hard to bear that burden cost-wise. So we've moved in the direction which has been recommended by our attorneys, that we no longer admit students from out of the district. This is a time where it's good to do it in the sense that we have had declining numbers of students from out of the district. So at this point, we're not, we don't anticipate families that are hoping that this would happen, or that they would have kids that they're hoping would be able to enter the district at this point, so it wouldn't be hurting anyone. And we've intentionally created this so that it grandfathers any students that are currently.
So students that are currently here or their siblings can continue.
And another important piece, this doesn't deal with contractual obligations, any faculty or staff. This doesn't
Right.
apply.
Right, that's all done through the contract, so that would.
Right, so that doesn't affect them. But otherwise, what we're saying is, what this is saying is that we would not be taking any new out of.
Yeah, unless they're a sibling of a grandfathered in enrolled student.
And we didn't like, we liked the idea of admitting students and welcoming as many students as possible. We also couldn't find a way to do that that would be equitable and still be something that the district could bear financially, not worry about financial burden. Right? One student's placement could be, high enough cost that for a district our size that could financially really offset the budget in a way that we couldn't necessarily. So this is what we think is a way that's still equitable in terms of we're not discriminating against any student because of their needs. And again, at this time, it seems like if we're going to do it, this is a time where we're not negatively affecting the current students.
And it was recommended.
Thank you.
So it was brought up that this was a policy we should
Correct.
evaluate and
Yes.
review.
And that was just the first read, so we will see. Anything else on policies or regulations? I need a motion to accept the following monetary donation with sincere appreciation and increase the budget by this amount. as recommended by the business manager and superintendent. The Hamilton PTO has given a donation.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Was it intended for anything specific, or is it a
It's
general?
the book, community book read, one book, one school, one book.
X.
Yep.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I remember.
I was on it. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion to approve Hamilton's participation in the following combined sports program for the 23-24 school year as recommended by the athletic director and superintendent. It is varsity and modified football with Waterville, which is where we've been. And do we have, oh, sorry.
I'll move.
Okay.
Second.
Do we have
You know what I'm gonna ask?
a
Yeah.
number?
All sports sign-ups haven't started, but tentatively 3 modified, 3 varsity. There's a large contingent of rising 6th grade, or 6th to 7th graders that could potentially
Be modified.
be modified, so the numbers are going to fluctuate. Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Predictable.
That brings us to information and correspondence, but in the last meeting, we talked about any student that was here for a class at this point of the meeting. We were going to say that they had made it through the business session and that you can get off easy.
No way.
So
He's gotta stay.
He already had his form signed.
He's gotta stay.
you are more than welcome to go and
Actually,
count it as a full meeting for yourself.
Don't twist it on.
you could go.
It's just you, so nobody's watching.
Except for the video.
Except for the video.
So athletic report was submitted. It was submitted.
Can I just add to the athletic report? So Joe Berry, who you approved to run indoor with Waterville, just won the Section 3 Class D 1,600 meter indoor championship. Yeah, which is exciting, and he's very excited about that, and he'll now go on to the state qualifier. So
Wow, that's great.
it's great.
So this talks about CPR AED for all faculty and staff. Are seniors required to do CPR AED?
They're all through phys ed, they're exposed to
Okay.
it, not certified.
Oh.
So it's information on how to do
Got
it.
it.
They don't actually get a certification.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other athletic questions? We have the 6 reports that were submitted for the administrator's report. But 3 of them were missed. Anybody else? I'm like, why do we have 6? That's fine. Does anybody have any questions? for
Well,
the administrator?
Can I hear about MTSS?
Yeah.
Sure. So RTI is the current model that we use to service our students who need anything really extra. RTI was really designed around academics. So reading, writing, math, you know, those sorts of things. When it originally came out from the state. Actually, before that, it was called what, AAS before that, and so there's always this name change. AAS was associated really with just reading and math. So the new kind of coined term is MTSS. It's multi-tiered sensory system. No,
System of support.
system of support. There we go. Many schools in the area have adopted this as the name for their support system for students. It is designed to encompass all students. So social and emotional learning is designed to be in that, as is enrichment for students who are gifted or that are excelling. So any student that kind of needs some of that extra support would fall into that. Now, having said that, we've kind of already crossed that bridge. We've kept it as RTI. We do have services for our SEL kids, and we're building upon that as we grow. It's a little bit of a, you know, do we just stick with RTI? Does it make sense to go MTSS and, you know, just so it's kind of has a broader sense to people who aren't real familiar with what we do under our RTI umbrella.
Does it change how people access it? Does it change paperwork? Does it change documentation?
Not
or
too much,
reporting?
no. Actually, we don't really, we haven't discussed like the idea of helping students who need enrichment. So that kind of opens the door to that and the idea of like beginning those discussions. And I think it's, I don't know, my team wants to kind of go in that direction, change the name. I don't have an opposition
Doesn't change
to
a lot
it.
about what we do, it just
Yep.
maybe
yep.
gives it a broader, better
Yeah.
name.
Kind of gives someone from the outside, and oh yeah, okay, so their supports are for everyone.
Sorry, actually, same report.
Mhm.
Is there a maximum number of families and students that the social worker can serve?
Yeah, so, no, but she said, yeah, like 30 is like, would be a lot.
I had a feeling we were creeping
Yeah.
up on it.
It's 26 and growing.
Yeah.
We have a few waiting, I mean, it's gonna be 30 before you know it. Yeah. And she's working hard, doing a great job, by the way. We're very happy with Gloria and what she's doing with our families. Yeah.
Mark, I have a question for you regarding the Hey Julie Assembly, and I'm
Yeah.
just curious why we selected that just for high school and why, I don't know anything about it, so why middle school wasn't included in that since it is becoming such a big thing for them as well.
Yep, so it's a, generated through BOCES, so they were able to bring her in to present at different schools. And the presentation was geared for 9 through 12. I did talk with Sue LeBlanc over at BOCES, and they are trying to come up with a version that is geared towards middle school. It sounds promising that before the year's end, they will have that. So they're looking for supports in helping Julie Smith create this, or I think it might even almost be there. So, and once that's available, I have already talked with Ms. Jerome as well to try to get that here as soon as possible.
Great. So I know that's, I mean, they're starting even younger now,
Yeah.
but that's the age where they're
And it
really
was,
getting robust with that.
this was a little bit different than your typical presentation. You know, some of the feedback that I received from the students. A lot of the times, and it's all well-meaning, but the students feel that, okay, an adult figure is telling them not to do something. Whereas this presentation was presented in a way, well, you're going to do it, but you need to take charge of it. You need to, inform yourself, and you need to make smart decisions with it. So I think the students appreciated that piece of it. And it made a few of them think as well, because she went over some of the terms of service that no one ever reads, and kind of explained how long some of those terms of service are, and highlighted, some of the things that they're signing up for. So that opened some of their eyes as well. So I enjoyed the presentation.
Good.
Was it by any chance recorded?
No, I don't know.
All right, I'm interested in your book that you're reading and having a presentation on, the We Got This, Equity, Access, and Quest to Be More Student University. You've already read that as a group, or?
No, that was just something that I reviewed, but Cornelius had come, I think, maybe 5 years ago to work in the middle school. So at that time, I wasn't privy to working with him or meeting him. But the Regional BOCES is offering a workshop in March, and so I reviewed the book before really encouraging other teachers to sign up. So there's a number of people that are going to be going from the elementary to listen to him speak. So it's really interesting. And then after we, as a collective have an opportunity to see him speak, then kind of we'll have a good conversation based off of that and have some common understanding. So.
Great.
Yeah.
Superintendent report?
Matt has a report first.
Your name's not on my list.
Tried to fly under the radar.
I know.
I'm prepared.
quick capital project update. Our family and consumer science space is substantially complete, which means it's accessible. There's still punch list items to do in there, touch up, paint, that kind of stuff. Some of the hardware and some of the casework needs to be completed. If you have a chance, I encourage you to stop and check it out. It looks really nice. So it is open and accessible. Furniture's coming soon. We've placed our first couple of orders for all the equipment that we're going to need in there, cooking sets and that kind of stuff. So it's very exciting. The LGI and the Media Center obviously is the next and last space. As of right now, it's on time, on schedule for substantial completion at the end of April. Making a lot of progress. That's also something, if you're interested, you can get in there and look. You can really see things start to take shape and how things are going to look. We had a meeting Tuesday with regard to furniture and finishes, so I'll get going on that. So it's coming quickly, really making progress. So also sort of capital project related, if you go back to, we had the referendum for this project in December of 2018. Much of the work leading up to that vote was based off of the 2015 Building Condition Survey. It's a tool that the state mandates districts to complete. It was on a 5-year cycle. 2015 was the last year that every school district had to do it in that year. Beginning in 2020, they did sort of a new phase out or a rollout of different phases. So I think it was roughly a quarter of the districts had to do it in 2020, the next quarter in 2020. They realized we can't do this all, every district in the same year. So we were 2022. So we just completed our next BCS that's due to be submitted to SED March 1st. So we had our architects present that to us on Tuesday prior to submittal. This will be really the guiding document as we now work on our long-term capital plan. So it's very timely for us as we're getting all of this significant work done. I mean, it is, you're talking hundreds of pages of very detailed sort of ratings of different systems and finishes and materials and surfaces within the building. It was very encouraging. Thinking back to 2015, there were many more blank areas that didn't have dollar amounts attached to it because of all the work we've gotten done. But we still have a lot to do to really keep this building up to speed, and that'll be really important, like I said, as we start to develop a long-term capital plan now and prepare for the next project. So we have some dates in mind, and as we move through the spring after we get that submitted, we'll keep the ball rolling with that. I know fiscal stress, I think, is its own item, so I'll skip that. And just quickly with regard to the budget, the next big deadline for us budget-wise is our tax cap submission to the comptroller's office on March 1st. As expected, our allowable tax levy increase this year is going to be a little bit higher than usual. My initial draft as of right now is just under 4%, 3.98 to be exact. So what that means is if the budget, the adopted budget requires a 3.98% increase in the tax levy or less, it is considered tax cap compliant. The reason for that, and I think I've been kind of hinting at this the last couple months, obviously the rate of inflation is well over 2%, so the baseline for every school district is 2. We have some tax-based growth this year with the residential areas up on the hill here, the Shenango Homes area, roughly 1% or so that boosts that allowable. And the thinking or the math behind that is you're adding new taxable property to the district, so that boosts your allowable levy because you have more taxable properties that's going to be applied to. And then roughly 1% or so for our capital project debt, which we've known all along is phasing in this new debt service for the existing capital project. So that's the generally how we arrive at that roughly 4%. 2% is the baseline, 1% because of new growth, and then the 1% vote to approve capital debt service. The state budget, the executive proposal was rolled out, I think, since the last time we met, including individual district state aid runs. For Hamilton, it showed a 3% increase in foundation aid. So all districts in New York State received at least 3%. If you did look through the state aid runs for school districts in New York State, I don't know if you guys do that, you will see many districts with very significant increases in foundation aid. And this is in line with this goal of making all districts fully funded under the current formula. So this was the last year to do it by. So anybody who was not getting the foundation aid that the current formula calls for, they got this huge increase, which is great. However, there's concern moving forward because what does that mean after that? You get this huge infusion of aid for next year and then the uncertainty moving forward. So we're not in that boat. We've been in this 2 to 3% hold harmless annually because we were overfunded for a number of years. It'll be interesting to see what happens between now and when the legislature adopts a budget, but that's where we're at for now. And then lastly, the coffees coming up, I'll just mention those now. We have those scheduled for Monday the 27th at 9 a.m. and then another one Tuesday the 28th at 5:30. So I would anticipate for those meetings, certainly the tax cap calculation will be finalized prior to submitting before March 1st. And we should have a pretty good idea of a draft budget at that point and some impacts on programs based off of the executive state proposal. And I don't think a lot's going to change, to be honest with you, this year between now and April 1st. So by those copies, we should have a pretty good idea where we stand.
If we keep on track with the plan of referendums for capital projects, when would that next vote?
We have, and when I say we, I mean Bill and I, it could be probably December of 24.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
Okay. Thinking it was coming. Okay.
It's coming. But that, there's a lot to do. Like I said, we have to take this BCS, we have to work on the long-term plan.
Yeah.
There's the whole fiscal side of things. As we're sort of replenishing that pool of aidable expenses that's available to us through SED, we're hoping that in the next year or so that there's going to be some escalators applied to those figures just because of the cost. We saw it in the eclipse, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a district downstate that they had a project that was $55 million increase in cost from the time it was bid out.
Just on a $162 million project.
Wow.
So there's...
And that's with the 40% buffer built in already, right? I mean,
Yeah. So that's, and even the BCS, I mean, the architects are telling, it's near impossible to try to project what, as an example, you're gonna repave the parking lot in 3.5 years from now. So, but it's a tool for SED as well to try to get a handle on what might be coming. So.
Were there any surprises in the building condition?
No. No, I really, this last project, really, we're very fortunate to have gotten done what we did get done. Some of the major infrastructure work that really, if we hadn't done that, it would have been glaring on this BCS. So we might be having some trouble with it. So, yeah.
Do you want to do fiscal stress now or do fiscal stress later?
Do it now. Sure.
Max,
Yeah, this will be quick. Yeah, so this is an annual thing that comes out through the Office of the State Comptroller. There's the good news is we receive no designation for either fiscal stress or environmental stress. I say this every year. I think when I say this, I mean this. If there's signs of this here, you're going to hear it long before this report comes out. Otherwise, things aren't really functioning properly. On the fiscal side of things, if you have 25 or more points, you get a designation that you're susceptible to fiscal stress. We had 3 points, and really it was kind of an anomaly. With regard to our cash position and our cash on hand as a percentage of our monthly expenditures wasn't quite 100%. And I think that's directly related to all the federal funds that we receive, that we have to do journal entries and basically borrow from the general fund to pay through the special aid fund until we get reimbursed for these expenses. So I would imagine most districts had something there. And then our environmental, if you have 30 or more points, you receive a designation. We had 10, and that was because of teacher turnover, which we have every year just because of our size. If we have a handful of teachers that either retire or leave, just changes through attrition. One of the environmental measurements that they factor in is turnover of teachers.
So that does include retirement of teachers as well.
Yeah. So good news there.
Back to Bill.
Also good news, we had, I think, one of our most productive lobby days. The UNITA and Madison County Superintendents went to Albany on the 23rd of January, and we were able to have a very lengthy meeting with Senator Griffo, who then set up a lengthy meeting with Senator Mayer, who was the chair of the Education Commission. And we were able to convey some of our concerns as superintendents, and some of those concerns have been heard and fully fund, hold harmless that you've heard. Another thing that we have been talking about is the ability to expand our reserves because of the projected financial cliff that districts could face after the COVID money. And so they listened. We had really good conversations about that, and I think the faculty and staff and administrators in the room will appreciate that we conveyed our frustration with the current APPR setup, and Senator Mayer was willing to listen. She agreed that the system is not really doing what it was intended for, and we're hoping that districts will have more local control over that. So really productive meetings, and it's the first time in 4 years that we really have been heard, and we were taken seriously, so I was pleased with that. We should really have a conversation about the taxing jurisdiction information that I put in my report. We have had a request for the board to look at that. It's a 10% exemption for volunteer firemen, firefighters, men and women, and ambulance workers. So that's something that every taxing jurisdiction, if you elect to adopt, must do a resolution to adopt that.
When timing-wise would that maybe play in?
Well,
Conversation and adopting if we were to do that.
2025 is the actual deadline to adopt, but you can adopt at any point at this time.
So you can put some information on our, and we can talk about it next month then.
Yeah, yeah,
That way we can review stuff before the meeting.
yeah, yeah.
Come
And
prepared
I
to-
provided some information that was shared with me to you.
So yeah, let's start the conversation next month more fully, and then we can see where we're at, to decide if we need to push it off a few months, or if we're not gonna go there.
Correct.
Can I
Questions?
just, in the past, there has been a similar discussion about military personnel.
Correct.
Can we have the conversation at the same time, or is that off the table, or?
No, I believe that exemption is still on the table.
I just think if we're gonna talk about one, we should talk about
Yeah,
both.
yeah. I'm just looking in the bylaw here. So this pertains just to volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. So we would have to, I would look into that. for you.
But there is one,
You are-
right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Yep.
separate.
Yeah, it is separate, I know it's separate, but I just feel like
We're gonna have one
if we're gonna talk about one, we should really be talking about both.
Mhm.
I'd have to go back and look. I know there was extensive conversation about the veteran exemption of it. I mean, it may have been 5 years ago. Maybe it could have been quite a ways back.
So,
Anyone else? Questions?
Steering team updates. Elementary.
I failed to make a meeting. I tried. I had one foot out the door, and I didn't make it.
I can give you.
So I'm gonna tag.
Okay. Tag, you're up.
Tag, please, help.
So we did, we talked a little bit about some feedback, the elementary parent-student technology night. So that was really neat to hear. A lot of the parents on the steering team had gone, so they gave some really good feedback, very positive overall, and some ideas for future ideas too. So that was really neat. We also talked a little bit about, there were huge help in helping collaborate on our career day. So we had a couple of areas that we needed to fill for the career day, so they gave some really good ideas, and then I was able to pass that on to the counseling department, who was able to reach out to some community members. So we're hoping to do that in May. And then we also, I kind of gave an update about the wellness day, which is tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. But I think we have a nice mix of community members as well as some of our staff members here that are going to be doing some 20-minute sessions for elementary. So I'm anxious to see how that goes, and then we're going to try to model the career day after that. The other thing is we just started a discussion about the review of code of conduct. So I did pass out our current handbook and gave it as homework. So the next time we're going to kind of talk a little bit about what we have in the handbook, what would be some suggestions that would be helpful for families and parents, and some pieces along those lines. So, yeah.
Secondary?
So we continue to talk about, we're still reflecting on this, the language in about what the committee is supposed to do. So one of the things that maybe all of you could chime in, and this is what I said, is that representative of the board, because people are wondering, are we a decision-making body, are we a consultancy body, what is our role here? And I see the committee as one that can bring forth both problems and solutions and kind of point those out, right? It's supposed to be a committee that encompasses a lot of people, so how to deal with this, that kind of their role could be in that area. Whereas, it's Mark's team that's going to carry out a lot of that stuff. And I kind of thought of it as while we try to stay out of the weeds, as a committee that can get a little bit in the weeds, right? And hopefully does some of those things. So it's not, as I understand it, a committee of the board. It's a committee that's formed by Bill and the administrative staff, so it doesn't have the same, oversight by the board directly anyway. But I'm just hoping that we can tell you if I'm speaking out of turn. That's what I see, and people are going to be working on, a subcommittee is going to be working on rewriting that language, which I'm sure we'll bring to the board so you can see what that is, what that committee's supposed to do.
With the steering committee.
Yeah, and Mark and his team are going to make sure that it's obviously complies with all the state aid, the state requirements, the legal requirements. Yeah.
Because these committees are part of the shared decision-making.
Yeah, but it was really unclear, like, what
right?
that requirements are. We looked at ours and looked around, and nobody else has one that's like ours. So, it seemed like a document that we're not really familiar with. We're not really using the way it's intended, and so why do we have that document? It seemed like we all thought, well, it must be mandated if we have it, because nobody else knows why we would have it. But it doesn't seem to be mandated, at least in that form. So those are some things we're looking into, like bigger picture. Some other things we talked about were, a lot of, we were able to talk about like some wellness days and some ideas for helping students in a lot of different ways, including resources for LGBTQ students. Discussion, we talked about making sure that students had equal access to do things like go to the dance, but there was no cost prohibitive issues going on there. And then we talked a little bit about, Dr. Myers had sent us some information about the Wait Till 8 campaign to have kids hold off on having a phone until they were in 8th grade. We were thinking about maybe even having some of the older students talking to some of the younger students about maybe life isn't so great now that I have a phone. It's everything you think it would be, type of thing. So trying to think of ways so we can help us spread that and help us think about that, and ties in with all our ideas about digital literacy. Really exciting point. So some of the issues we talked about. It was nice we had students there, and we're trying to see about. We've been doing our meetings remotely. We're trying to figure out if we can find a time where we can be in person at least some of the time, and we're making sure that everybody still has access to get that meeting space. So a big group of people there. So.
Emerald Foundation hasn't met, I don't think. They are adding new members. They're working on the all-class reunion. They're working on a solicitation to past alumni. So they're pretty busy right now. And they're looking for more proposals so that they can grant money. Teachers that are here. Starting that fast. So there's that too. We did fiscal stress. Board correspondence, Bill?
Is there any questions regarding the correspondence from Petrello?
No.
I was just going to say, can we go back to non-sharing?
Oh, I did skip one, didn't I? Sorry. See, I'm skipping stuff.
No. So I just wanted to let everybody know, I'll be doing the Capitol Conference tomorrow. So we actually have a half hour with Commissioner Rosa and Chancellor Young. It's like a Q&A session, so that should be really good. They're going to be doing like a breakdown of the budget, what we know so far. We'll have a legislative panel with some senators and assemblymen, and then actually a discussion with the governor's office as well. And then they're adding a session on like tips and tricks for advocacy in your district, which a lot of people have asked for. Like, what exactly can we do?
Is this virtual?
That is it's virtual, yes. The in-person lobby day is the 15th. It's next Wednesday. Unfortunately, I am not able to make that. But it does look like we have quite a big group from our BOCES district that are going. They have scheduled meetings with, I think, like 9 different senators and assemblymen. So if we have anything that we do want addressed there, just let me know and I can pass that on to our School Board Institute rep and they can ask those questions. And I'll have an update on that next month.
Thank you. Sure.
So I attended a similar thing. We had a panel at the BOCES up in New Hartford with all the senators and representatives that represent many components of the BOCES. So obviously we had our senator and our state assemblyman there. And so asked a number of questions. I think they're aware of a lot of the concerns, fiscal concerns, issues with implementing electric buses, some of those things, and they had a lot of complaints to share with those, not necessarily all their solutions. It was a little hard, and we talked about school lunches, and school lunches are free for everyone, and community lunches, and we got some from the district, giving some data about how that benefited our district, and how many more kids were eating, and how the numbers have gone down significantly since that ended. And they all seemed, if not receptive, that it was at least seemed like it was in the league. Where Joe Griffith does have pretty good relationship with the head of the education committee, so I was also hoping to re-bring up something that they had previously almost had passed, was the change in aid bold in the aid amount for shared services. Just that $30,000. Is that it?
Salary for BOCES.
Yeah,
BOCES.
salary for those is so low, it's hard to get those shared services. So they had previously, like, they were pretty close to making an agreement on that. It didn't get through, but it seems like there's a lot of will on both sides of the aisle to revisit that. And get that through. So hopefully some good things coming out of that.
Yeah, thanks. I've gone in the past, and I feel like we're all speaking, and they're all receptive of it, but not a lot of solutions.
But we did get to enjoy some wraps and some 2 liters soda.
They always have food at their events. They always have food.
And they're all the same lukewarm.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes they have a bowl with not so much ice.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all gone and melted. Something's never done.
Yes, so we've got our annual meeting on Wednesday, for BOCE is on Wednesday, April 5th at 6 p.m. Just make sure you let Jody know if you haven't already, if you're attending or not, so she can let them know. I'll read through the budget update, February 27th and 28th, there'll be some copies, as Matt already indicated. March 1st, petitions are available for the board candidates. If you have questions, please see Jody. March 17th is the deadline for those petitions to be able to be placed on the ballot. March 28th is how to become a school board committee candidate. What you need to know. If you are interested in that, please contact Jody. And May 9th is the public hearing at 6 p.m. for the budget. This was approved within the budget calendar already, but the time has changed, so it's at 6 now. And that brings us to our community participation. You're going to come up and finish it online. From there. Please remember that you have no more than 5 minutes at the podium.
In October of 2010, an 18-month-old child was abandoned in a park in Zhaozhou, China. In May of 2015, that child landed in the United States of America. And he's here partly because of one of the board members who helped us sort through the process of adoption. And I cannot thank her enough for that. She was his pediatrician, helped him along. 7 days after landing, that child, not speaking a word of English, was put into a classroom in the school. And Meg took that child under her wing. And we couldn't have been happier. 7 days, not a word of English in this country. And make it even better, another Asian girl, I will not name names, was his interpreter in that grade. His interpreter. Xiaobai grew in this district. And he was the second. We had no problems. We let him go. And our trust in this district and the people that educated him skyrocketed. All the way through elementary. Every teacher helped him along. Now my trust is shattered. Shattered. Because we have an elected official who felt it was okay to post on Facebook mocking the way Chinese people speak, Asians speak, mocking them for the whole world to see. So you can see why this is so personal to me, because our trust was in this. Our trust is in our elected officials, people that I voted for, who have now disappointed me beyond belief with their reckless posting on Facebook. Reckless. These are children. Asians in this country are having a hard enough time as it is without adults mocking them. Adults charged with the stewardship of their education, mocking them openly. I hope we all learn from this.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Esther Liu. I have multiple capacities, but I would like to focus my capacity tonight as a parent, as an educator, particularly in the area of multiculturalism and DEI, taxpayer, and on top of that, a teacher in Hamilton Central School who has been working with some of the students at Colgate University in middle school. Because I know that some of you, elected official of Hamilton Central School, came to us asking for help to educate the students. Because we all believe that all of our students have equal opportunities and potential to contribute to this global world that we live in. The world that has differences, and that we have to embrace those differences. You don't have the possibility as we move forward towards a more globalized institution. Hamilton Central School has a lot of students from various countries. My children have dual citizenship. My children. And one of them is your student. Think about so many other students that come and hope to learn from you. They think of you as the educators they respect, that they can look up to. You are their role models. Many of them want to be you. Many of them. I can name one right there, Mrs. Rose. Right? And I'm still enjoying your, what do you call that, the web page with all the videos, right? They goes all the way, 32 hours on flight to go to Indonesia, where my children show their cousins, their family members who couldn't come to America. How amazing Hamilton Central School is. The teachers are so loving, right? The leadership, right? Oh my God. Talk about money. Talk about all the things that we're trying to aim here, right? They're all glowing and shining, right? But going back to my point, I'm here as an educator, as a parent, taxpayer, educator in multiculturalism and DEI. So for me to have this experience happening in our beloved family, you know, I always see our school as a hand. One, feel the pain, all the fingers feel the pain, right? We have a medical practitioner over here. When you have a cut in one finger, you feel it in other fingers. And so the pain that some of the students, our community members feel, we should feel the pain. We should not close our eyes and ignore what is going on in our school district. When Mr. Roy came to...
You have to be careful not using it.
Oh, when someone came to me and expressed the concern, right, I could sympathize, have strong empathy, because as you can see, I'm Asian, right? I cannot force myself, I cannot make myself to be something else other than I'm Asian. I cannot pretend that I'm white. I cannot pretend I'm black. I am hardcore Asian, whether I want to change my makeup, right? And that's the importance, what I'm trying to say is the importance of identities. Do we really think that identities that exist in our student population, in our educators population, members, is really important? How do we project our family, Hamilton Central School, as a community of learners, right? That continues to learn from each other experiences. We are an educational institution. How do we project ourselves as an educational institution outside? Right? Academic excellence, check. Right? High competent, high quality teachers, check. Inclusion and belonging, do we want to check that? I know I have 5 minutes, but I'm not going to stop. Right? So think about the experience that one of our hands or fingers feel. we need to feel the pain, right? We need to feel the pain. If you don't feel the pain, we have to question the purpose of our existence as educators, right? So, being asked to run, I think this opens up an opportunity for all of us. We keep saying about like providing solutions, right? Not only, problems, resolution. I think this is an opportunity for us to evaluate our values, our goals, what's important to us as individual educators, teachers, and elected officials, and community members. What kind of role model that we are trying to actually provide for our students. So if it is okay with this, if we are okay with this, then we should mock each other. But I'm against that. How can we provide solution, best practices, policy that hold people accountable and practices accountable to allow this community that is inclusive, welcoming, provide sense of belonging. So I would like to have all of us to think about that. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for sharing your concerns. We are obviously aware of the situation and we are addressing it. I'll make sure that everybody understands. Thank you for coming to the meeting and speaking. At this time, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And we don't have any executive. Okay. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Saved your life.